Welcome to another iGyro training event. Today we'll be focusing on the PPSR and the values it can add to your business. So the PPSR is effectively the registration platform built upon the PPSA, which is, if you bear with me one moment, I'll pull up the exact definition or our exact definition, our specification. It stands for the Personal Property Securities Act 2009. Now, the PPSA is an act that was brought in which allows grantors to grant interest in property. What that effectively means is if you're the receiving person, you get benefit in that you can register your security in a product. If you manufacture a printer and give it to someone on a lease and that company goes into administration, if you've registered on the PPSR that printer and its license number or serial number, it is exempt from being part of the administration process or exempt from being part of the liquidated assets. You can claim that asset back because you've never released your interest in the product. Same applies to many other instances, motor vehicles. You may see it on the news periodically where they suggest never purchasing a motor vehicle without searching on the PPSR to make sure that there is no finance or other interests registered on the product. It can also be registered generally on future credit. So if you're issuing credit, if you're issuing trademark use, you can register these interests, or in our instance, as a builder, you're producing a home for a consumer, and the intent is that you want to register your interest in that home or in all the products you've purchased to produce that home in the event that they, as in the individual, become bankrupt, or in the event, if you're dealing with a company, that company goes into administration and then is subject to liquidation. If you're dealing with companies, obviously you want to be getting directors' guarantees signed simultaneously to that so that you can hold the director, not only the company, accountable for the actions. Now, as part of the designer specification, we include within it for our builders and their homeowners the PPSA. The PPSA requires special clauses if you're issuing credit and so on and so forth, or if you are intending to register your interest in a product on the PPSR, then you have to have an agreement in place. You can't do it retrospectively to products you've provided before the agreement was in place. It starts at the event at the time that the agreement is entered into that includes PPSR or PPSA provisions. So in our event, the client signs the designer specification and the building contract. From that moment onward, you're able to register your interests in the improvements or the money you outlay against that individual to claim later on if there is a problem. Now, it's less of an issue if you're dealing with completely bank-funded clients. The bank's covering their loan, the bank's meeting their obligations under the loan, and you have a lot more security there. Inversely, if you're dealing with partially cash-funded clients, wholly cash-funded clients, or corporations, then PPSR registrations are very valuable. We know firsthand how it feels to be on the receiving end of a company. We entered into building contracts with someone several years ago. They were operating as a company. We did not do our due diligence and did not get a director's guarantee signed. The client had finance. We progressed to building the home. I believe we reached lockup stage, and we found out that the lender had actually pulled finance on the company at a much earlier stage, and the lender was refusing to pay our bill, and we had no recourse against the individual. If we had registered both the guarantor and also the company on the PPSR, then we would have been able to claim our rights to that interest. We would have been able to force bankruptcy on the individual, and we would have had some likelihood of getting our money back through a future sale of the property, for example, registering a caveat, things of that nature. So in the designer specification, we include the definition of PPSA, and if we go a little bit further down into Clause 5, financial matters, we detail the actual conditions and the required clauses within our designer specification to enable register of PPSA on the PPSR. There's certain things here that we've had to purchase these clauses separately from specialist debt recovery companies, and it enables us to register them without having to send them a verification statement, which is a document confirming their registration. We're not required to do any of that. We can register them, and that's our obligations. So if we just come here to the browser momentarily, I have the Australian Government, Australian Financial Security Authority website open. It is where you register PPSRs. It is the PPSR effectively. To use this website, you need to register, and there is I guess a very detailed step-by-step guide for that on this website, transact.ppsr.gov.au. You need to create an individual account either for your company or for each administrator. And from that point onwards, you can create what is known as a grantor. Sorry, you can create what is known as a secured party group. So the secured party group is the receiving person, is the person who is claiming the interest in the product. Effectively the creator, the credit issuer, the printer creator, the bank issuing finance, they would all be a secured party group on the PPSR, registered against the company or the individual. So as a franchisor, for example, we register against our franchisees on the PPSR because we're issuing credit terms to them. You know, they pay for royalties at a later date. They pay for service hub fees at a later date. So to protect our interests and to limit our liability, we register those companies and also the guarantors through our deed of guarantees on the PPSR. As you would find, many trade contractors are starting to register your company on the PPSR. If you're dealing with major reputable plumbers, electricians, bricklayers, pretty much anyone who's providing not only labor but supply of materials and would be adversely impacted if you were to go into administration and subsequent liquidation, they would be registering their interest in the products they're supplying to you on this website. Suppliers such as Frame and Truss would be registering their credit and effectively the Frame and Truss that they're producing on this register, so that once again, if you were to ever face financial hardship, go into administration, they can go into they can register on this PPSR. They can be a secured creditor as far as the liquidator is concerned, and they can say that Frame and Truss has just been delivered to that site and was never installed. I'm taking that back, and there's nothing you can do about it because I still own it. That's effectively the PPSR in a nutshell. To register against someone on the PPSR, as I said, you need to have a well-written agreement in place enabling you to do so and detailing effectively what you're registering against them. Now, we've been doing this for some time, so I've already created a secured party group known as franchising, and that is Integrity Franchising Pty Ltd with the ACN and our address for sending of verification statements if required. To register, you come after you've registered on the website to then register an individual or a company on the PPSR. You come to create a registration, and as you can see here, it details what you need. These are all links you can click on. Collateral details being effectively what it is that you're registering your interest in. The grantor details being the person who you're registering against. So that is the person that has enabled you to register against them. In our instance, it's a franchisee. In yours, it would be potentially a homeowner or the homeowner's corporation and the homeowner. The secured party would be yourself, or in our instances, franchising, and obviously the method of payment generally being a credit card. So you start the application. Now I've created a template to avoid myself having to enter all this information on a case-by-case basis. It's very straightforward to create a template. You fill out an application the first time, and just before you press save and submit, there's a button here that says save as a template. So you can set up your PPSR templates from day one. You can set up your secured party group. You can put all of your particulars in as to what you're actually registering against, and then it's just a matter of adjusting the grantor details, being the client details, on a case-by-case basis. So I'm just going to go here to select template, franchise PPSR, and use template. And as you'll see, it's pre-selected commercial and non-transitional. Now, commercial collateral type means I'm transacting with a commercial entity. If you are transacting or registering an interest against a consumer, then you would choose the consumer option. We're a franchisor, we don't deal directly with consumers, but you would choose consumer yourself. Is the registration transitional? This doesn't really apply anymore. Soon this will be taken off. Transitional was an option that was first enabled when the PPSA came out, that allowed you to kind of claim back a period of time before the contract was entered into. That changed some time ago, and from now on you can only claim debt or register interest in things after the agreement is entered into. So you would leave this as not transitional. Now, the secured party group, as I said earlier, you set that up from day one. You create the secured party group. You put in your own company details, ACN, address for services, being both mailing, postal, and physical, and that is saved. Now, once a secured party group is created, it can't ever be adjusted. The people can't be added to it or taken from it. It's a fixed entity. If details changed, you would create another secured party group and use that one going forward. So in our instance, it's Integrity Franchising, and yours, it would be your own company details. We'll go to next. Now, the collateral type, because we previously chose commercial, it's saying commercial. The registration kind is a security interest. Now, if we circle back here, we will see that there is a statement here in the specification that that the owner acknowledges and agrees that these terms constitute a security agreement for the purposes of the PSR and creates a security interest in all product that has previously been supplied and will be supplied in the future by the builder to the owner. So what we've said the whole contract as it is, everything you're providing hereafter is a security interest, and that's what we're registering on the PPSR. In our instance, once again, this is my template that I've used historically for franchising to register against franchisees. We are issuing an intangible property account. So in other words, we're issuing credit terms. We're not physically, delivering a frame and truss to site. We're not physically delivering a pallet of bricks. We are providing credit terms. We're outlaying an intangible product in exchange for future remuneration. Yours would potentially be an alternate collateral class, depending on what it is you're actually supplying. I'll update and do a post on Workplace about this after the fact, once I've put together a template that each of you can use thereafter. It's logically going to be something general property or something to that effect. I need to take further advice. So we just come back here to next. So we just need to go general intangible. Oh, I've lost all my description. Bear with me a moment. I'll just jump back to the start and reapply my template. So intangible property / account. So the description should be as descriptive as possible as to what you're actually providing. Now you want to say that, building a new home, building a duplex, whatever it is, you want to be as descriptive as possible. Services as described in the franchise agreement and disclosure document, including but not limited to royalties, cooperative fund levies, INH service hub fees, company registration fees, franchise fees, and franchise services fees. So as you can see, I've covered the whole host of monetary instances that could see Integrity Franchising carrying or providing credit to a franchisee, and we're registering all of that. So in the event a franchisee went into administration or liquidation, we would be able to say all of this money we're entitled to. We are a secured creditor. If there so happens to be any money left over, as in there's money left in the bank account after the liquidators paid themselves, we're putting our hands up for it first. Now the duration, you can set it at any period you like, 7 years, 25 years. The longer, the greater the fee. Ordinarily, you would just do 7 years because, if you're trading with a company for more than 7 years, that's a pretty solid hog, and you just renew it at 7 years. If you're dealing with a homeowner, you'd theoretically assume this is not going to run for any longer than 18 months. And at the completion of the home, and after the defects liability period, and after you've been paid all the money you're owed, including any defects money if you've attended and done site inspections that weren't actually your obligation, you would release this security interest. Now, it's worth noting that the PPSA works on a first in, best dressed basis. When you register against an individual or register against a company, you go in the queue right at the very bottom. And as that list gets longer and longer, then the greater number of secured creditors in front of you that will be paid first in the event that there is any money left over. So let's say a company goes broke, they owe $200,000. After all their machinery is sold, after their office is sold, there's only 50 grand available. After the liquidator's taken their money, that 50 grand would go starting at number 1, the first person registering on the PPSA, and then number 2, and then number 3, until each one of those is exhausted in full. So if it so happens the first person on the PPSA was owed 60 grand, they're going to get 50, and the person number 2 gets nothing. So you want to be registering on this as soon as practically possible after the agreement is done, and you want to be preferably at the top of the list, or getting to the top of the list. Proceeds to be claimed: all present and after acquired property, goods, and collateral. We don't have inventory. None of these other things are appropriate. At this point here, you can give an identifier to make it easier for you to recall at a later date. If you've previously registered against them and this is a renewal, you can put in the earlier registration number and go to next. Now, this is a very, very, very important step. Grantor identification. If you don't register on the PPSA perfectly, it is null and void. There's no second chance. If you spell someone's name incorrectly, if you so happen to leave out a middle name, if you, for example, when you're dealing with a company, refer to its ABN when it actually has an ACN, null and void. There is an order of operations or order of importance of verification of identity, and you have to register against them based upon the first available information about them. So if they have an ACN, you have to register against their ACN. You can't register against their ABN. If they're a consumer, in New South Wales with a driver's license, you can't register against their passport reference. You have to register against their driver's license. So when you're sitting down and doing the contract signing process, you want to be capturing as much as their date of birth, their license number as practically possible to enable you to do these registrations. So if you bear with me a moment, I had a tab here open, grantor identification. So as I said here, it details that they have to be entered against an individual in the order that they're available effectively. So if someone has a driver's license, that is what you have to use. It's followed by a proof of age card, passport, visa, so on and so forth. If you don't follow the order of operations, your claim is nullified. Same with the company. ACN is in front of ABN, and I believe I had that detail here as well. Organization. So this is the order of operations. It also details how you can't register against a trust on the PPSA, but you can register against a trustee if that trustee is a company. So you want to be familiar with this website, being ppsa.gov.au, as well as the registration website, or alternatively, give us a call and we'll work through the best way to do these registrations. So, we would put the ACN here if it was a company and you were dealing with a company. If it was an individual, you'll be prompted for their given names. You'll notice it says given names, and it must be stated exactly as it appears on the relevant source document. So you'd preferably want to try and get a photocopy of their license while they're in the office signing the building contract. That'll give you access to their date of birth as well as their first and middle names. Gives you the option here to add an other grantor. So for example, if you're entering into an agreement with with a company which subsequently has directors, you would enter the organization being the first grantor, followed separately by another grantor being the first director and second director, and so on and so forth. And you would potentially have 3 or 4 different grantors here on this list. So if I just, for example, for a moment, just cherry pick a company, bear with me a moment. So I'm going to go no, it doesn't have an ACN. We're going to go yes. 102.417.032. As you can see, I'm going to try to register against Google. That's not going to work. Oh, sorry. Collateral, we need to jump back. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Notice identifier. Just type in test. And we would hit next, and it gives you a summary sheet at the rear saying that Integrity Franchising is the secured party. Here's the details of the party. Here's how you serve them addresses, commercial property, account, the services described in the franchise agreement, so on and so forth, the notice identifier, and then it goes on to say who I am trying to claim against. And you can put a reference in, overhead, whatever you want it to be. You can hit next and you pay a $6 fee, and you've just registered against that entity on the PPSA for 7 years. It will subsequently send you an email with a special code that you need to effectively edit or remove that at some future stage. As I said, it will automatically expire after 7 years, but ordinarily once the contract has served its purpose and you've met all your obligations and the client's met all theirs, you would release that interest. Otherwise, it stays against them as an individual. Having too many registrations on you that are open-ended can cause issues for homeowners to get finance at a later stage, because obviously a bank wants to be as high up the list as is practically possible. So if there's ever an event that sees the individual go bankrupt, the bank can put their hand up and say, I've got security interest, I want to get paid. But if they're 15th down the list, they just may not issue terms to the homeowner, and they may not be able to get a future loan. So it's all about getting on the list, letting it serve its purpose. If you're no longer issuing credit to an individual, if they're no longer a franchise, if they're no longer a client, you get off the list. So that is the PPSR in a nutshell. There's a lot of online guides. Creditor Watch have a lot of good videos. They did a whole series on the PPSR, the value of it, and why is this just untapped potential that so few people know about. And I guess the more people that do know about it, the less effective it is, because the longer the list is and the less likely you are to get paid. So, spruik it, but don't talk about it too much, because we want to be up the top. There's also, as I said, you go to Google, type in PPSR, you'll see there's a range of things here. The 5 most common mistakes which see a PPSR undone being wrong grantor informations. As I said here, using an ABN instead of an ACN, using an ABN for a sole trader rather than their name. Going against a trust when you actually want to put your claim against the trustee, so on and so forth. The other one here is about the transitional. As I said, that doesn't apply anymore, so just leave it as not transitional and you won't have any issues. That's PPSR in a nutshell. As I said, we have the clauses there in our specification. They're there to be used. It's a $6 fee. It's 20 minutes, half an hour to get set up the first time to create your account, get verified, to create your grantor or to create your secured party. Put in your company details, put in ACN, register all of that, and from thereafter, it's a 5-minute process to register on the PPSR. And the last thing you want is to build for a homeowner, get halfway through their job, they declare bankruptcy, you're suddenly left with half a house built on their block of land and little to no recourse to claim back what you've outlaid. And, all that could have been avoided if you'd spent 5 minutes and registered them on the PPSR. I'll just see if we have any questions. We have no open questions. I'll let that sit there for a minute. And if anyone has any questions following this, my details are mobile 0401 130 915 or shane@inh.com.au. I'd love to talk further about the PPSR and how it can benefit your business. Thanks for another iGyro training event. Enjoy your Christmas, New Year, and have a great break.